You scared of the water? The sea is a great healer. How long you staying?
I don't know.
Your parents know you're here. You don't want no trouble.
Lovely.
Do you know a girl with long red hair?
What did you just say?
Oh. Just give me an electric shock. It's not about what it looks like. It's how it makes you feel.
What's going on?
I've seen someone in one of the vans.
There's no one in those vans.
There's this girl.
She's got a bit of a reputation, you know.
Reputation for what?
Don't walk away from
I'm not walking away from you.
Sure about that?
Why are you looking at me? What's wrong with you? I came here to be with you.
Hello, my name is Spiro Economopoulos and I am the Program Director for the Melbourne Queer Film Festival. What you just saw was the trailer for Makeup, which is screening as part of MQFF Interrupted from the 19th of November to the 30th. I'm very excited to be joined in a second by the director of that film, Claire Oakley, who I'm going to bring to the stream right now to have a chat with me about the film. So, Claire, hello.
Oh, hello.
Hi, how are you? Sorry, I had to go on mute for a second there. How are you going, firstly, and more importantly, with everything that's going on at the moment?
It's all a bit crazy here. We're about in 2 days' time. Tomorrow at midnight we're going into another lockdown for a month, although I'm sure it'll probably go on longer. So no, it's not an exciting moment to be in London, but we'll get through it.
Yeah, you will. I think we're just emerging out of ours, so it's kind of a bit of a, it's been a bit of a merry-go-round, obviously. But I just want to just quickly say that Makeup, I thought was such a fantastic film. I actually caught this late last year and really fell in love with it. I think it's got such an amazing sort of tone and sensibility to it, and particularly, I think, as a queer film programmer, I'd come across a lot of coming-of-age films and coming-out films, and this had such an original sort of take on that in a way. I think the blend of genres and tones is really wonderful. It starts off and you think the film is going to be some kind of psychological thriller, but it takes you somewhere else that is, not to spoil it too much, ultimately kind of uplifting, I suppose. Can you tell me a little bit about the tone of the film? And was that something that was really intentional with you when you were kind of thinking of the movie?
Yeah, it mixes quite a lot of genres. There's bits of body horror and thriller in amongst the kind of coming of age story, even bits of comedy in there. And I was kind of interested in playing with audiences' expectations by using tropes that we're familiar with, but in a different way, and taking everyone on a journey where you're not quite sure what will happen next. And the aim really was to express the sort of heightened inner life of my lead character, Ruth, her unconscious, her fears, her desires, her obsessions and fantasies. And so, to dramatize that very interior story, I sort of gave myself free rein in using all types of genre and sort of making it visual and in order to express what she was feeling. So it really came from like trying to express her inner life. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I was actually reading somewhere that this was initially a project that you envisioned as a short film, sort of originally, and it was something that you were kind of working on, and then sort of abandoned and kind of came back to, if that's correct.
Yeah, exactly. I wrote it. The very initial idea was years ago. I had a dream about a girl following another girl through some streets in this like foreign town, and like never being able to catch up with her or see what she looked like. And I wrote that into a short film and sort of put it away for quite a long time, and then returned to it. Yeah, sort of dug into it and looked at sort of expanding the initial ideas that were in there.
Yeah, right. Okay. The location itself as well, which is, for people who haven't seen the film, it's set in this caravan park in Cornwall, from memory, and it's such a evocative place. And particularly, I think the film takes place when it's obviously before it's kind of open season. So there's a lot of caravans that are covered up in plastic that are kind of quarantined, essentially, very prolifically so. So I think the location itself is really wonderful. And I was wondering, was it a place that you're familiar with personally? Was it a personal connection for you? Was it something that you thought about, I suppose, when you were writing the story?
I had spent quite a lot of time as a teenager down in Devon and Cornwall, which is in the UK. It's kind of right on the sort of far tip of the country, and it's got kind of a different feel to it. And the community there is quite isolated and unique. So I wanted to set it somewhere that the main girl could feel like a bit of an outsider and feel like she's coming into a sort of very tight-knit community, and there's like a dialect that sometimes she doesn't understand the words, to sort of put her on the back foot, really. So that was one of the ideas of shooting down in Cornwall. And then with the caravan park, it just visually and metaphorically, it was really exciting because you've got these, often the caravan parks in the UK are in these like huge areas of natural beauty, and you've got the sort of sea and the dunes and the beach, sort of, you know, with these tiny little prefabricated vans. And I really like that as a metaphor for her journey, where she's choosing between a sort of, you know, boxed in little prefabricated life or following her like raw natural instincts. So it was fun having both of those things to play with cinematically.
Yeah, wonderful. Molly Windsor, who plays Ruth, the lead character in the film, is so fantastic in it as well. Really, really great performance. And was Molly someone you'd worked with before, or you knew about, or was Molly someone you had in mind actually when you were writing the script, or was there a lengthy process in terms of finding that actor for that role?
I had seen Three Girls, which was a TV series that she did before this, and whilst we were shooting, she won a BAFTA for that show, which was very exciting. She sort of flew back to London, won her award, and then flew back at like 4 in the morning to be on set in time. But yeah, so I'd seen that show and knew of her, but we had quite a traditional casting process where we saw sort of 200 young women, and like, you know, just sort of got, you know, brought it down through stages to just a kind of a few people left. So yeah, it was really on the strength of Molly's self-tape, and then when I met her in person, it became quite clear we were able to work together very well, and she just was perfect for the role. Like, I was looking for someone with a bit of naivety, but also someone who doesn't know themselves very well, but then who's also willing to kind of go deep into a psychological place. So yeah, it was perfect.
Yeah, she's really wonderful. I mean, the whole cast is pretty great, actually. I read somewhere actually that you mentioned that you weren't conscious that you were making a coming out film, basically, I suppose, which is a kind of really interesting thing. And watching the film, that kind of makes a bit of sense now, because I think the way you, as an audience member, as you're watching it, you don't know where the story is taking it, but ultimately that journey is, I guess, essentially more or less that. But I'm really curious about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so as I said before, like it started as a dream that I then wrote into a short film. And whilst I was trying to write it as a short film, I took that on a lab where, it was like a week of developing our writing with other filmmakers. And this one other filmmaker had read my story as a sort of expression of lesbian desire, this girl sort of pursuing this other girl and trying to see who she was. But I'd never read it like that. And I, at the time, thought I was straight. I was in a heterosexual relationship. And I'd never sort of considered those thoughts, for my own life. And so I sort of thought he was quite weird and didn't, speak to him much over the course of the week. And then things changed in my own life, and maybe like 5-6 years passed, and I came out. And so I was interested in going back to that story because I was sort of interested in the idea that I might have unconsciously written something about my own desires long before they became conscious in my life. So I went back and sort of was interested in looking at ideas of repression and how your mind can play tricks on you, and how, the ways in which we hide ourselves from ourselves, and the sort of fears that are associated with our desires. Yeah, that's how it kind of came about.
Yeah, wonderful. And the impact of that is actually really powerful. I think there's, as we were talking before, like the tone of the film sometimes is quite dark and oppressive, and then there's this kind of moment, which I won't say too much, right near the end, which really sort of, I found it actually really kind of moving. I think it really kind of takes it to somewhere else, which is really great. You co-founded a collective in 2014 called Cine Sisters, which is a collective of female filmmakers. It was about 40. Now there's over 170 members from last time I was reading about, which is incredible. A lot of the queer filmmakers that come into our festivals, we always have discussions around the idea of forming your own kind of, community amongst the like-minded filmmakers and finding your tribe essentially, and finding that support, because sometimes I guess the greater industry isn't there to support filmmakers all the time. And I was really curious to hear about why you started the collective, which looks really fantastic.
Well, it was really for those reasons that you say, that there is a lot of help in the UK through the BFI and the BBC and other organisations like Creative England to kind of, bring people together and support us and support those sort of explorations and relationship building. But outside of that, we felt that there were so many of us who had really interesting experiences that we weren't sharing with each other. So we set it up really as a peer-to-peer mentoring group where we meet every month, and it's sort of formatted that each month someone will come with like a problem that they're working on, like how to choose a production designer, or often something quite practical. And there are so many of us that have been through that experience before, so we'll sort of meet together and over some drinks and discuss this one problem and share our experiences and offer advice. And it's a really nice way of also getting to know each other. And there have been some partnerships, writing, directing partnership type things that have come out of the group, and we support each other's releases and TV shows and stuff.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's fantastic. The film, as we were saying before, has a really kind of sort of interesting mix, I guess, of genres and styles and sensibilities. And I was actually just really curious about, was there any films or filmmakers in particular that were potential kind of touchstones for the films? I know a lot of filmmakers sometimes will show their cast and crew certain films as, inspirations, I guess, in terms of, going into a shoot. Was there something in particular, or a filmmaker or a film that you thought about when you were making makeup?
We only really looked at one film with me and my DOP, which was Jessica Hausner's Hotel. It was one of her early films, and it's all set within one space, as ours was, and there's and it's got this really sort of thick, creepy atmosphere, and they use the hotel like a kind of labyrinth, and we were interested in doing that. with the caravan park. So we looked quite closely at that. Sort of story-wise, it's not that similar. I mean, I guess it has got some similar themes, but yeah, so that was a touchstone for us. And that was really it. And we mostly also looked at photographers. So I looked a lot at Todd Hiddo, who's an American photographer, and he photographs suburbia, and it's like twilight with this sort of thick mist. And so that was a big reference for us as well.
Yeah, and I guess so there must have been, was there something about the location as well? Any other films that you thought about that was in that setting? It's funny when we're talking about the caravan park before, I was seeing a friend this afternoon who's Scottish actually, and I mentioned I was speaking tonight, and I mentioned Cornwall caravan parks, and the first thing he said to me was like, "Oh, those shower blocks," which is, you know, like the immediate thing that came to his mind, which is something you kind of have in your film, and I think I was like, yeah, which is fantastic.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, there have been quite a few other British films set on caravan parks, particularly low-budget films.
Yeah.
They're like logistically that they're a really good place to shoot. We all stayed on the park and lived there and worked there, and you know, you can drive everywhere. There's electricity across the whole park. There's some like very practical reasons why they're great places to shoot. But no, we hadn't really looked at many other films set on caravan parks, but maybe they should do a little season of them or something.
Totally, I'm taking notes already. So, are you? I guess, you know, film production's been able to kind of continue, sort of thankfully here, and I imagine in the UK as well. Is there anything you're working on next that you can kind of talk about, or have you got a project you've got coming up?
There's nothing that I'm sort of would be shooting imminently. Which I'm kind of thankful for, although it would be nice to get back on set sooner rather than later. But no, I'm working on a couple of feature films. One of them is just like an idea stage, and the other is a bit more developed, and a TV series that I'm writing as well. Okay,
fabulous. I usually like to ask our filmmakers if there's any new film that you've seen recently that you can recommend that you really liked. It doesn't have to be like a new release. It could be a retrospective title, but you know, I'd be curious to know if there's anything you've seen recently that you've really loved.
I watch quite a lot of movies, so they're often sort of showing old films, or you know, not so recent films. And I watched. I was just so fed up of like being in lockdown and not being able to travel and see the world. So I watched a few films set sort of, you know, far-flung places, and I watched Timbuktu, which I think came out in like, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 years ago. But it was absolutely brilliant, and I'd really, really recommend it to anyone. Okay, cool.
Actually, just very quickly before we head off, I suppose as a filmmaker, I mean, I think festivals are obviously such an important sort of platform for filmmakers, and obviously this year has been a once in a lifetime kind of year in terms of how films are distributed, and you know, you as a filmmaker kind of getting your film out there. How have you found it? I suppose it must be really difficult, or I suppose, you know, filmmakers, those connections you kind of make at festivals and stuff must be something you're really kind of missing, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I try not to think about it too much because it's too sad to think of all of the like people that I didn't meet, and the films I didn't see, and having that experience. I mean, London Film Festival happened last month purely online, and there was kind of a sense of community around it, and people, you know, you could phone people up and they've just watched the same new film as you, and that was like something, but it also did highlight, you know, what we were missing. And Makeup's about to come out in the States and Canada, and usually, you know, I'd be flying over there as well and releasing the film, but there'll just be lots of these Zoom chats, which are, you know, tantalizing because you get to meet, you know, like yourself, someone from and you know, someone who loves cinema, who's from another place with a, you know, a whole nother range of references, and yet you can't really, you know, speak for, you know, maybe we should be here for hours, but Yeah, we'd need a beer or something. It's a shame.
I would need a martini or something, definitely. Claire, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I'm actually really excited about our audiences discovering the film. When we had the festival cancelled back in March, I was, pretty depressed like everyone else, but I was really happy that we got this film back and we finally get to show it to an Australian audience. So, I'm really thrilled about that, and, good luck with your next project as well.
Thank you, and I hope everyone enjoys the film and come back in the cinema.
Okay, talk to you soon. Bye, Claire.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us, and please enjoy the film Makeup, which is screening from the 19th, 30th March, and we'll be seeing you soon. Bye-bye.